everybody. Welcome back to Baking with Joy. It's been a while and it's good to be back with you here today so I can share this video. It feels a little awkward today because it's been a while. We took quite a long break. But I'm anxious to show you this recipe, and this recipe is appropriate for Thanksgiving and fall. I've never made pumpkin bread before, but I've got this recipe off of Celebrating Appalachia YouTube channel. And I think it was the pig and the acorn. But anyway, I had been reviewing several different pumpkin recipes, and I'm not a big fan of pumpkin, but I do like a pumpkin recipe with a good many spices in it, and I feel like this one did have a lot of spices in it. If you've ever watched Celebrating Appalachia before, they share a lot of their family recipes, and I think they have a family cookbook. So you might want to check that channel out if you haven't already. So to start with, in this big, well, actually we'll start right here. I have 3 eggs and a cup of oil. It's just a cup of regular cooking oil, and I'm going to set this aside over here. And in this big mixing bowl, if you can see down in here, I've got 2 1/4 cups of white granulated sugar. And I have me a 15-ounce can of Libby's Pure Pumpkin. Not pumpkin pie filling, but just pure pumpkin. And we're going to be using that whole can to make this pumpkin bread. And in this bowl, I started getting my ingredients together and realized that I'm out of all-purpose flour, completely out. So in this bowl, I measured in 3 cups of self-rising flour. And of course, you know, when you use self-rising flour, you don't have to use the baking powder or baking soda or the salt, I believe it is. But in this bowl here, since I do have the 3 cups of self-rising flour, I'll whisk it up real good to get any lumps out. And I've got my spices, and I'll go over the spices that I've got in this bowl with you real quick. But I want you to know that I did add just a little pinch of salt right there, if you can see. Now, the spices that I have in here, I have 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, a teaspoon of ground allspice, a teaspoon of nutmeg, and a teaspoon of cloves. And I actually increased the cinnamon. I think it was 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon the recipe called for, and 1 teaspoon each of the allspice, nutmeg, and cloves. But I did increase my cinnamon to 2 teaspoons, and that's just my preference. You can go strictly by the recipe. I will list the recipe in the description box. You can alter these spices if you don't want one of these spices. You can by all means leave them out or decrease them and ever to your taste. Also to note, I did add 1/4 teaspoon of ginger. Now that didn't call for that in the recipe. I just like ginger in as a spice. So what I'm going to do, I've already whisked my flour really good. So now I'm going to go in and whisk in these spices. So we'll just move this sugar here. And I'm just going to take my little whisk here and go in and get all of these wonderful spices whisked into my flour. Okay, we're going to set that aside. All right, so I've already got my loaf pan sprayed with baking spray. Okay, so in this bowl I have 2 1/4 cups of sugar. And as I was saying, I've got my 3 loaf pans already sprayed with baking spray and on this baking sheet. Now the recipe says to bake it at 350 degrees for at least 90 minutes. And they suggest that they use empty old coffee cans. Well, I don't have old coffee cans. Or they said you could, this batter will make 2 loaves of pumpkin bread, or like in a 9x5 pan. I have the 8x3 little foil pans right here. So I've got 3 right here. And since they're 8x3, I should have enough batter to make 3 loaves. So we'll see. So in my bowl that I have my sugar in, I'm going to go ahead and add in my 3 eggs. And I have 1 cup of vegetable oil. I'm going to go ahead and add that in to my sugar. And I'm going to go ahead and empty this 15-ounce can of pure pumpkin. Now, I've got my hand mixer, and I'm just going to go in and mix all this up together, and then we'll add our dry mixture. Get the eggs beat really good and the oil in with the sugar and pumpkin. I'm going to turn the volume down a little bit because it wants to splatter. Good. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to give this one last whisk to all these wonderful spices and this flour. We're going to start to beat that in here. It smells beautiful, everybody. Nothing smells any better than the fall spices like the cinnamon and ginger and nutmeg. And so we'll add the rest of the spices in. We'll just take this little wipe and wipe that up. just gonna lift up there. We're just gonna take that over here so it don't make a mess. Okay, everybody, if you can see that batter, it's thickened up since I've added my dry ingredients in, and it smells wonderful. And I'm just gonna give it a stir around and down on the bottom of the bowl to make sure we got it all incorporated. Okay, now I'm just going to pull this over here. This is my sprayed pans, and I'm going to start pouring my batter in. And I'm pretty sure I can get 3. Okay, everybody. Sorry for that interruption. My husband was cutting up leaves, and he come in from the outside. Okay, everybody. Again, I apologize for the interruption, but we're going to get through this. I have divided my pumpkin bread batter up into these 3 loaf pans, and like I said, they're 8 by 3. So if you were using the 9 by 5, you would have 2. But I've got 3, and I think they're evenly divided. So we're going to pop these in the oven. I've got my oven preheated to 350 degrees. The recipe says to bake them for 90 minutes, but since I have smaller pans, I'm probably going to check them around 40, 45 minutes. But when I come back and I feel like they're done, I will tell you just exactly how long that it took, just in case you have the same size loaf pans that I do. Okay, everybody, we'll be back when this bread is done.
Oh.
Okay, everybody, we're back. And my little loaf cakes, pumpkin loaves, baked for approximately 43 to 45 minutes. So if you have a 9 by 5 loaf pans, and you split your batter up into 2, it's probably going to take closer to an hour, I would say. But since I had the 8 by 3, the smaller loaf pans, that recipe will make 3 small loaves or 2 of the larger size loaves. And it did take about close to 45 minutes at 350. So they smell delicious, and I put them on this cooling rack. They're still warm, but we're just going to go ahead and cut one. And there it is, everybody. They are so soft. I'm going to put it in this plate so you can get a better look here. And even though I used the self-rising flour instead of the all-purpose, it come out just as good. And I can tell you right now, it is a super moist bread. So I'm going to take a bite here. They're not too sweet. And it's just the right amount of spices that I'm tasting in there. And it's very moist. You probably could melt you some butter on here. You could dust these with powdered sugar, which I believe is what I'm going to do. Or you could put something like a cream cheese glaze on top of it. But actually, I think it's fine just like this. I also forgot to mention, the recipe did call for a cup of chopped walnuts, which you can leave those out, which is what I did. Or you could use chopped pecans if you wanted nuts in your pumpkin bread. So everybody, this was a wonderful recipe, and I'm so glad to be back with you to share these recipes. And I'm so glad that you could tune in and join me this afternoon. And until next time, and don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And until next time, this has been Baking with Joy. God bless.